everybody! It's been a while.
It's been forever, actually. You'll see a bunch of like uploads prior to this, but those should have
not
gone
really.
up for a while.
It's been a while because we took an unplanned hiatus during my birthday month because we were a little busy. Just, you know, trying to enjoy summer the best we can with everything that's going on, all things considered.
Life being what it is.
We hope you guys are staying safe and staying well. We hope
Staying healthy.
Yes, we hope that you're all staying healthy. Anyway, today's video is a book haul.
Yes.
It's gonna be a fun book haul because there are a lot of exciting things in it.
Yes.
Like, I feel like August was the month where like, almost every week there was something exciting that showed up in the mail. Like, and when I say exciting, I mean like,
holy crap, wow.
Scream-inducing
this is
exciting.
Awesome. Yeah.
But before we get to that, we're gonna start by talking about the books that, well, I bought. Mackie bought this month. This is kind of a combination thing because I did buy my own copy of this book, but I also got one from the publisher. The book in question is Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angeles. So, as you can see, I have two copies. One was from Wednesday Books, who were kind enough to send me a copy. The other is a pre-ordered signed copy that I got from Brookline Booksmith, which came in the mail. Where Dreams Descend is basically being compared to Phantom of the Opera meets Moulin Rouge. It's about a female magician named Kalia who kind of wants to escape her life as a performer in the Hellfire House, and so she decides she's gonna go to the City of Gloria and compete in a magician's competition. The only catch is they don't actually allow females to compete in those types of things, except that Kalia is a very powerful magician and eventually earns her spot. The competition turns a little bit scary when her fellow competitors start disappearing. So it's a really cool story. I really enjoyed it. I read this one like way early last year, so I have been dying for the sequel ever since. I plan on rereading it this year. Aside from just getting the book, however, from Wednesday Books, I also happened to get this pre-order incentive poster. It looks amazing. It's basically like a movie poster rendition of the characters in Where Dreams Descend, which is really cool. And because I enjoyed the book so much, I decided I wanted the Owl Crate exclusive edition, which looks like this. It's actually printed right in the hardcover with this foil. The back says, "The stage is set, the spectacle awaits."
Gorgeous.
And it came with two stickers, which are pretty cool. So yeah, I am really excited that this book is now out in the world. I'm really excited that you guys are now able to enjoy it as much as I did. And she also revealed the cover for the second book, When Night Breaks, recently, and it's beautiful. So yeah, very, very excited to have this in my possession right now. And you can look out for a giveaway for the other copy of the book because that'll be happening soon-ish. Soonabouts. Another book that I got in the mail is actually one that I ordered like back, I want to say back in June, like it was a while ago, and it just took a while to get to me, which I don't mind at all. And it's The Revolution of Birdie Randolph by Birdie Angel by Brandy Colbert. And it says life is about choosing yourself. So this is basically about the main character, whose name is Birdie, and she's kind of working hard to, you know, be the perfect daughter, follow the path her parents want for her, but then she kind of falls in love with a dude that's not so great, and that begins sort of this journey where she is sort of examining what she really wants and how she can sort of reconcile that with what her parents want for her. And it also is affected by the fact that an estranged aunt moves back to town, and she sort of kind of gets inspired by that aunt as well, and how the aunt is living her life. And I think that's going to be such an interesting story to explore. And then we move on to some gifts, because it was my birthday, so I did get a couple of things. First one is just something cute. My sister Rachel knows I cannot cook for anything. I was gonna say like some swear word, but
why? You can...
I mean, I can cook basic things, but I'm not someone who actually actively cooks. And it was funny. She meant this as a very sweet gesture, but also because the recipes are super simplified in it. It's actually a Disney Simple Family cookbook. So there's a bunch of different recipes in it. It's cute because they're all themed after different Disney movies. And they're very simple. They're very like straightforward. She's like,
I don't know how I feel about the Pocahontas with the corn one though.
They're all very straightforward recipes. So she's like, I want you to start trying to do them eventually, like one by one. And I was like, oh, that was a very sweet and thoughtful gift. And then Kristen got me two books. One of them I have already read, luckily. This is a hardcover copy of The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan, which is the first book in the Wheel of Time series. The Wheel of Time series is essentially about these three young men, Perrin, Rand, and Matt, and they sort of get swept up in this saga of life and death and good and evil, and fate is basically pulling at the strings of their stories. And it's really, really good. I really enjoyed it. So far I've read two books in the series, the first having been my favorite, so I'm very excited to own this. It's kind of hefty. even though the book wasn't actually that long. And then Kristen also got me the
Oh.
slipcase edition of Fairy and Folktales of Ireland, which is edited by W.B. It's actually got a very pretty printed hardcover as well. I do still have a very vast collection of fairy tale books, and from all different countries, and it's always fun when one of my friends adds something to the collection, so I'm very excited about that.
So digital haul, as per always, it's sort of my thing.
It is really your thing.
Which is great, because then she gets all the space, and I get to carry my books
Everywhere
all of
you
them,
want.
everywhere I want. So we're gonna start with some of the comics that I got. The Buffy Angel reboot has a crossover event called Hellmouth. Gee, I wonder what that's about.
I would never be able to guess, ever.
But more on that on a future upcoming What We Read. But I am this close to breaking up with this series, just a little
Aw.
bit, because it's just, you know,
That's
you hope
unfortunate.
so hard, and it's not that it's not well written per se. Like I would at least argue that, you know, there's some good stuff in there, especially, you know, in the entire sort of reboot series. You're gonna find that they actually did a little short story on a Filipina slayer.
Oh yeah,
You know,
I heard about that.
yeah, and how, to nobody's surprise, there was a kind of a plot twist around the aswang / manananggal, whatever creature
Somehow
that
not
was.
surprising.
Which to me, I was like, all right, that works. I like that. But apart from that little nod, which could have existed in Whedon's original canon world anyway.
Yeah, why not?
Still, Hellmouth was its own doozy of a thing. So there was that. And then I was able to get, well, the Old Guard series, the first part, which they turned into the Netflix movie.
Which
that
I
we all
think you
know.
might have mentioned before.
That's the first Old Guard graphic novel, followed shortly by Force Multiplied. And they were gonna come out with like a collected edition, but I couldn't wait.
Impatience.
It was that good. It was that good. Just to backtrack a little bit, Buffy and Angel obviously are about the Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel TV series reboots that are now in the comics. Totally different story, totally different world. So many thoughts and feelings. For the Old Guard, speaking of, you know, this is in reverse. It was on the printed page, and then suddenly it's on Netflix or, you know, live action. And Charlize Theron did a magnificent job. I think this is one of the few graphic novels where the live action is better in terms of an experience without diminishing the source material.
Interesting.
You know, it's not one of those things where, oh my god, they did such a better, like they told a better story than they did in the books. No, that's not what this is at all. It's just, I feel like the experience is so much better because there's just something about action-packed stories that, you know, and it's kind of, I think even your thing, it's a thing with like manga,
Yeah.
and how when it's animated, holy crap, it's so cool, rather than there's like 75 stills of like a 3-minute, like, you know what I mean?
Conversation.
I was gonna say fight scene, but sure, conversation too, why not?
Well,
and
fight scenes aren't conversation.
right, and Old Guard just happens to be about a bunch of immortals. They don't die, like whatever happens, and so they've decided to sort of
That's
try to
unfortunate.
police the world a little bit. They can sort of sense each other when a new one comes around. So Charlize Theron did such a magnificent job as Andy. It centers around her, who for so far is the oldest of them all. I'll be tongue-in-cheek about how old exactly because that's part of the story, and that's really what the joy of the Immortals theme trope is. It's part of the mystery isn't just what the hell happened in like all of these centuries.
Okay.
It's how old are people really, and that's part of the fun. That's part of the even, you know, whether it's vampires or whether it's like Highlanders or whatever.
I like how Highlanders is your sensitivity.
Like they're all Highlanders, like they're all from Scotland, you know. That's so old. For those of you who know what that is, please holler at me. We are old. By today's standards, we're pretty young. So there's that. So Old Guard 2 is pretty great, I want to say. So everybody should grab that. It's called Force Multiplied. Dawn of X, number 7. Lovely, lovely book. It's you know, I collected all the way up to 6. There was a complete arc across several books. Some of them are done. Dawn of X7 collects Excalibur, X-Force, and Marauder 7, Wolverine 1, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, New Mutants, like 7 and 8 or some such. Either way, because I didn't list it down on the thing, and I distinctly remember reading all of them in like one go. It's like, why are there 2 back-to-back issues? But whatever, it's great. It continues the story of the X-Men on Krakoa, and they're rich, and they're wealthy, and they're powerful, and everybody wants to be them, and everybody hates them. They're basically the mean girls of the world now, and that's what that is. My favorite book that I got this month would be the Fushigi Yugi Byako Senki Volume 1. I shot myself in the foot intentionally by getting this thing, because guess what? I don't know when Volume 2 is coming out. And for those of you who don't know, the Fushigi Yugi series is one of those magical girl tropes, but this time it was the magical... Like before isekai was a thing, like as a word that everybody sort of like sword art, that kind of thing. This is the magical girl that gets transported to another world, the 4 gods of sky and earth. This is the prequel, middle prequel is what that is. She's technically the second girl ever to be transported into the book after the last two. This time for the god Byakko, and it centers around Susanoo. And this is my favorite ship in the entire Fushigi Yugi lore of them all. In the first series that came out, which is technically the present one, they made allusions to the first like girl that sort of transferred to the other world, and then another priestess. This was the other priestess, and gorgeous story. I love it already. Too much ship baiting for me to even function.
There's always a ship baiting thing.
Too much for me to function, because they aren't using, like, for those of you familiar with the lore, every priestess has 7 star guardians or star warriors aligned to a constellation in a particular sky. The stars and the constellations have their own names. Now I know what the names of the warriors are, but that's not the name they're born with, because they don't know they're a star guardian until they sort of their powers awaken. And so there's a ship here that I am going to die on a hill for, and I don't know who the hell that was. And they look like the dude that I think it was, and so I'm just like, who's who here? And so I'm dying. But on that note, last pieces, I bought a bunch of other books. Shadow Crossers, Stormrunner 3 by J.C. Cervantes. So yeah, it's based on my mythology. This is the third in that series, and he is a young boy who happens to be connected to the Mayan gods. I haven't read the second book. Who's connected to the Mayan gods. His adventure begins. I love the first book, full of shenanigans.
Yeah, the first book was really fun.
Really great. And it stars, you know, it's again in the same spirit of like sort of like the Percy Jackson books. You've got a kid tied to the divine, and he's just trying to work it all out, and that's always cool. The last couple of books that I did get are Shadowfall, which is Alphabet Squadron 2. So in the non-Legends universe, which is canon now, there's a hotshot bunch of pilots. And you know me, and I loved my Rogue Squadron of the old Legends universe that doesn't exist anymore, technically. And so I'm just wondering, okay, what are the pilots? She's still mourning. What are the pilots like now? And so this is book 2. I gave it a chance, which means my most exciting book that I got within the Star Wars universe, and the last one sort of before we move on to the next segment, would have to be Thrawn Ascendancy. So this is, I would like to assume, the next set of Thrawn books that are canon. I am so glad that he survived the great multiverse culling that we now know.
Terrible.
It is, though. It won, like like the courtship of Princess Leia never happened technically, and I feel bad. Am I over it? Probably not. Will I ever be over it?
Never.
Yeah, I don't think I'm too much. I mean, not that that universe didn't torpedo its own self, like to a point, but at the same time, there was like that, like, anyway, doesn't matter. It's set after the events, I think, of the Thrawn prequels.
The two that you talked about.
Yeah, the one that was sort of in graphic novel form, and the one that I sort of read about how Grand Admiral Thrawn joins the Empire, and how he made a name for himself. And it was such a great series because it centered around Thrawn's ascendancy. This time, I think it's the events after that, because they did allude to greater threats, and Thrawn stating a few things to the Emperor himself, saying there are probably greater threats out there, and if allying ourselves with the strongest force in the galaxy helps us defend against those threats. And I'm just like, what the heck kind of threat are you out there looking at that would make allying with the Empire the better option? Crazy, but that's what he's doing for the Ascendancy, so that's pretty much that for me.
Before we move on to the stuff we got from different publishers, there's one last thing you got to share. So I think a month, well, you guys are probably only seeing the other haul now, but we hauled a lot of the Avatar graphic novels, the library editions, because those are the editions I want to own. And I may have panic bought the last 2 I was missing, because those are actually really hard to find, and
That's
they just
right.
restocked in the instant that email came, and I was like, obviously gonna buy it. So we have, I think that one comes first, so The Promise and The Rift. The Promise is an Aang and Zuko centered story, whereas obviously it's the one where Zuko makes him promise that if he becomes anything like his dad, Aang needs to like step in.
Yep.
If I remember correctly. And then this one is more Toph and Aang centered. I think it's because in this one there's something, if I remember correctly, because I've actually read it, but it was a while ago. It was something about them being in the Earth Kingdom, and there's some sort of sacred land that was defiled in it, and it's causing all sorts of problems.
And at the center of it is like Beifeng Industries or whatever the heck her dad, like.
They encounter Toph's family again, basically. But I'm so happy because we finally have all of them. I really thought I wasn't gonna get all of them this year. It was a conundrum.
Which reminds me about the first time we ever meet Toph, and they're like, oh no, they kidnapped my daughter, she's probably so scared, and it cuts straight to Toph in like an Iron Maiden type thing without the spike, and she's like, I'm gonna mangle you guys, just you wait till, you know, just kind of up there. love that.
I love Toph. I love the Avatar gang.
Who
So
doesn't love Toph?
very glad that we now own both of these.
Yep.
But moving right along, we're going to talk about things that we got from the publishers. First, we have something that we got from Tor Books. It is a massive brick of a book, and it kind of scares me because it's so massive. It's like 900 pages long.
You could kill somebody with it.
And it's science
Like,
fiction.
drop it over the building.
Yeah,
beat
it's
somebody.
science fiction. And I don't read a lot of science fiction, let alone adult science fiction. So we're going to see how this goes. But we were lucky enough to receive a arc of To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, which is Christopher Paolini's upcoming release. It is basically about a main character named Kira Navarez. I think she is a scientist. I'm not entirely sure what kind of scientist. But anyway, along some investigation that she's doing, she uncovers an alien relic. And that kind of takes her down this whole weird path. And it's science fiction, so you can probably guess what happens to her. But it is a massive book. It is the first in his Fractalverse series, which is his new thing. It's a standalone, which is why it's so massive. I am very curious to see how I'm going to feel about it. I mostly want to read it because I love Christopher Paolini's Inheritance cycle.
Yeah.
Not so big on the sci-fi part, but I will read it just for the sake of saying that I tried to read it.
That's great.
Yeah, it's beautiful. The next thing that I got is from Penguin Teen, and this is an arc of Super Fake Love Song by David Yoon. So this one is about two characters, I think. Let's see. Yes, Sunny Day and Cirrus So. Sunny, when he meets Cirrus, he's kind of like affected by how cool she is, and he's kind of a nerd. And Cirrus accidentally mistakes him for a musician.
Oh dear.
But really it's his older brother Gray. So he kind of starts lying about the fact that he's in
Sure,
a
that's
fake
what we
band.
do.
Because, you know, he wants to be cool for this girl. He has to kind of fake it until he makes it. But obviously that's not going to last very long, I'm assuming. And I think that's what the entire story is about. I'm really looking forward to this because music-centered stories are always fun for me to read. I am curious to see how this whole, like, faking you're in a band is gonna go for him, because that can't be easy.
I can't imagine, like, how
could you do that successfully?
I can't. Like, having had
with
my
the
own little
instruments and like.
yeah, having had my own little. I mean, maybe you can fake being the singer or something, but even then, right?
Another thing I got in the mail, which was really cool, this time from Jimmy Patterson Books, or James Patterson Presents, is this cool little package. So the arc kind of slides right out there.
Ooh,
And this
slidey arc
is an arc of Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. So this is basically the story of two sisters. They're twins. One of them is murdered early on in the book, Victoria, and her twin, Amelia, is determined to get vengeance on whoever killed her sister.
Sure.
Only to find herself entangled in this whole situation with, oh, I don't know, the Princess of Hell.
Right, this is the Princess of Hell one.
They're the Wicked, technically, and each of them, it sounds like each of them is named after the 7 deadly sins.
Sure.
She only meets, I think, a couple of them in the book. But anyway, so she finds herself accidentally summoning one of them to get revenge, only she ends up teaming up with him in order to figure out who actually killed her sister, and she discovers that there's like something else that's going on.
I'm just thinking of all of the demon summoning memes that I've seen in a while. It's like, it's just crazy.
I know, it's great. It's a perfect atmospheric fall read. Comes out October 27th. We'll be talking about it in What We Read at some point. Next, we have a duology. Both finished copies. One is a paperback and one is the new release, so it's in hardcover. So we have Wicked Fox and Vicious Spirits, which are both by Katcho, also from Penguin Teen. This first book is about a gumiho named Myung, and she gets entangled with a human boy early on. And she's technically supposed to get her life force, her spirit, from males by sucking it out of them. They end up teaming up because there are murders going on, and there's this whole murder investigation aspect to it. It was a really fun read. I enjoyed it last year. It's very much like a K-drama. This second book is actually a companion novel. It's actually about completely different characters, which I did not realize until later on. About 2 of the secondary characters in the first book. I don't really want to know much more than that because I still want to read it without this knowledge. Yeah. But I have heard that one of the characters that's the big focus in it is the sort of goblin character in the first book, who I loved.
You like goblins.
We do. So yes, I'm very excited about this and grateful to Penguin Teen for sending both my way. From Source Books, I was lucky enough to receive a finished copy of Wayward Witch by Zoraida Cordova. This is the 3rd in the Brooklyn Bruja series, and it's about the youngest sister in the series. I don't actually know what her story is going to be about, but the first 2 were a whole lot of fun to read, and I think this one is going to be as well. I love that it's very witchy, and it's got that whole big family vibe to the series, and it's set in New York, which makes it even more exciting, so can't wait to check that out. Last but not least, from Cookbook, I also got finished copies of The Princess and the Fangirl and Bookish and the Beast, which are both by Ashley Poston. So this one came out last year. It's basically a Prince and the Pauper retelling where the two characters switch places because they look exactly alike, and they sort of find out what it's like to be in the other person's shoes.
Very nice.
Whereas this one, obviously, is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, where an ordinary girl crosses paths with one of the celebrities. He's kind of a jerk. They end up having to work together in this story, and I still haven't read it yet, but I'm so excited to get to it because I have enjoyed the series so much, and it's just like a fun, modern fairy tales type thing with like a geeky aspect on the side, and that's always a good time. So, thank you, Cookbook.
I, on the other hand, want to give a really fun shout out to The Very, Very Far North, which was written by Dan Barrell, because that was a lovely little book based on a polar bear named Dwayne.
So cute.
It had some of my favorite quotes of 2019, which I just, to this day, very much love. And so, in the mail we got Just Beyond the Very Far, Far North, which is a companion to the series. And I can't wait, because this is one of those things where, and I've said it before of my review of the first book, it feels like this generation, sort of like Winnie the Pooh type
That's
books,
really
right? Where you've got just a bunch of anthropomorphic characters just living their best lives, and then just randomly just stumbling onto some wisdom that'll kind of like make you cry. For example, from the last book, there's a quote there that I still love to this day, something to the effect of, every so often a day sort of takes you to a place that you didn't think that it could take you, or some such like that. And it was great, it was lovely. Plus, you know,
cute illustrations.
Who doesn't love cute illustrations in large print? Which means I'll be finished with this book sooner than most. Alright.
The last thing we have to show you are two different boxes.
Couple of boxes.
So I actually opened this one on my Instagram, so I'm just gonna quickly show you the contents, but it was very exciting. So when you open the box, well, technically, on the box itself there was a sticker. The sticker says, "Beware the gods that answer after dark," has a constellation on it. You can kind of guess what the book is based on that. The box itself says, "A life no one will remember, a story you will never forget," and then has the hashtag on there. If you haven't guessed by now, it's fairly obvious what this book is, but we're gonna pretend that you don't know anyway. So we have this gorgeous wrapped paper. Inside there was a blue quill, which I'm obsessed with. Thank you. There's this little pouch, and it says, "A book is a dream that you hold in your hand," which is cute. And it has, if I remember correctly, a tiny sprig of forget-me-nots, which is very symbolic of this book. There was also, this is seeds, if I recall correctly. There's a tiny little envelope that has a quote on it. It says, "A book she has found our way to live 1,000 lives, or to find strength in a very long one," which is a lovely
quote. It's a good quote.
There's this keychain.
That's gorgeous.
Which is so lovely. And there's this notebook, which says, "Never forget to tell your story." It's a plain lined notebook there. And last but certainly not least is some fan art, which is probably my favorite thing, I think, that came in the box. So this one is by Nicole Deal, is what it says.
Beautiful.
This one is by Irina, I'm gonna pronounce this wrong, so sorry, Kimmich. This one is also by Nicole Deal. Kind of could tell because of the way he's portrayed. Very good looking, thank you. And this last one, which is kind of creepy, is by Rengen Toomer, I want to say. It's such beautiful art, and it's actually interesting that there are more than one artist because they kind of all go together really well.
I know, it's like their styles, it's like they had a prod meeting and said, "We're gonna do it in this style."
And then there is this tiny little box that has a little keychain with the book on it, with some charms. There's Eiffel Tower, there's like this.
I like that little bauble with like a
Right.
ton of tiny stars.
Isn't
That
it
is
cute?
gorgeous. I kind of want this.
Isn't it cute?
Not so much the Paris one, but the tiny one with it.
Anyway, in case you hadn't guessed, the book that was in that art box was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by Victoria E. Schwab, or V. E. Schwab. This is her upcoming adult fantasy release, and it is basically about a young woman who makes a deal with the devil where she gets to live forever, except that no one will remember her. It's gonna be 300 years, basically, since she makes this deal, and the big catalyst event in the book is that she actually meets someone who does remember her, and things kind of go from there.
Okay.
I have only just started reading this. I'm about that much over.
Okay, so low-key,
great.
Victoria Shaw was talking to Neil Gaiman about this book in one of
Yes.
their little kind of author interviews that have been posted in the last, I don't know, several months, for years, just a thing. And I kind of really want to read this book.
Yeah, so far it's been really, really good. I have really enjoyed the way she's writing it. It comes across very much like a fairy tale, also a cautionary tale, which I like a lot.
And since V. Schwab has such a distinct writing style.
Oh yes, it's
she's like
very similar to, but also very different from her other work.
The fact that she and Neil Gaiman had a conversation about this, and Neil Gaiman totally respects her writing style, and she's just like, oh my god, and Neil Gaiman's like, that was me when I was meeting my sort of like things, and so there's that whole beautiful camaraderie between them. I'm just like, I need.
I think you will like it if you read it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
a lot of hiding.
That was very exciting when that came in the mail, so I'm glad I finally started it and cannot wait to talk to you guys about it. One last
Where we
thing
saved
before we
the,
go.
not necessarily the best, but the best
but the
for
most
us.
predictable.
Predictably so. 2 surprises came in the mail.
So
the first of which
so for my birthday weekend, we, you know, had a little bit of a getaway with friends, and then when we came home, there was a few things waiting for us at the door, right? And then
she rips up over the package. The package
no
for one
warning
of them.
on this package.
And then suddenly I hear like, oh my god, they actually said it! Oh my god! And I'm like, all right, what did they behold?
An Ark of the Lost Book of the White by Cassandra Clare and Wesley Chu.
You will hear about this on a, like when we start podcasting, and you will hear about a bookish breakdown of this book, because it is, to me, that yummy. Like it is.
It was so good.
It is such a great book, and so this takes place, I want to say, in between
Mortal Instruments
and the Dark Artifices. Yeah. So they're roughly thereabouts in timeline. By the way, this is book 2 of the Eldest Curses series.
The Red Scrolls of Magic.
The Red Scrolls of Magic was in between the two trilogies of the Mortal Instruments. So it's almost kind of like every 3 books is what this looks like timeline-wise, and it's just lovely.
It really is.
You see Team Lightwood Bane struggling with a baby warlock, Max, and who are called away to the Shanghai Institute and to Shanghai in general, because terrible things are afoot. No more spoilers beyond that.
But it was so good.
But it was very, very good. Alex and I have different opinions about it, but we mostly just
not super different, mind you.
You know.
What he really means is that he thinks it's his favorite in the series, and it's not my favorite in the series.
Exactly. Alexa said like the first one, I like the second one better. So I thought, all right, great, cool. Whatever angels have heard.
Yeah, whoever heard our Shadowhunters
screaming must have thought, all right, just throw a book at them. They'll shut up, or not, or they'll keep talking about it.
I was like, really? Us shut up about the Shadowhunters?
And I thought that was the end.
Oh, me too. I was like, this was the highlight of my August. Okay? I was like, oh my god.
And then out of nowhere, I think it was in the middle of a meeting like
or
that
something
day,
happens.
and it's like, I gotta get the door. I get a box that just says 2 beloved heroes, 1 love story for the times.
For the times.
And then I'm like, okay, it's probably another book box.
And then you
yet,
and it
flip
says
it over, it
more
says
Malik.
More Malik, and I'm like, yo!
So that's how the box looks when it came. And then there's this letter from Cassandra Clare, which
is really awesome. And there's like red confetti in here, or whatever the heck that's called. But there is a finished copy of the Red Scrolls of Magic in paperback version with Alec on it.
Which we already own, but you know, that's not going to stop me from...
Yeah, that's just really fun.
Okay.
But there is also a finished copy.
Listen, the amount of screaming that ensued when this package showed up was high.
Of the Lost Book of the White. And it is just gorgeous.
It really is. Can you believe? Can you believe?
Right, so...
It also has the alternate cover if you want to make it match the first book.
Yeah, it does.
Which all of the first run, I want to say, do. So if you want to make it match the original cover, this is
They've got it.
You can flick it back like that, which I am not going to do because I like this cover a lot.
Well, it's got Magnus on it, right?
I just like Magnus. But it also a really great look.
I know.
I love the hinting there.
I know. It's got a lot of hellfire, which I think is just always lovely.
I mean, what Shadowhunter story doesn't have a lot of hellfire? But anyway, obviously, for obvious reasons, we were very excited about this package showing up in the mail for us. It was so incredible. And again, whoever decided to bless us with all this Shadowhunters goodness during my birthday month, I can't.
The angel has heard.
Which one though?
Ooh, the nicest one? I don't know. Rosie was the only one. Anyway, the point is, we're grateful
Very
and we're happy, and it was a good book. Like, we read it. It's great.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the end of our book haul. And yes, see, had a Shadowhunters book in it this time, not like last time. We hope you guys are doing well. If you guys got any exciting books during the month of August, do let us know. We would love to hear it. And if you're excited about anything we've gotten that you kind of figure we haven't read yet, do let us know as well, because we'll definitely prioritize getting to that. And if you are also excited about the Lost Book of the White, feel free to let us
Holler at
know. We
us.
have a
It's
lot
time.
of feelings.
That's true.
A lot of feelings. Anyway, we'll see you guys with another video soon. Bye!
Bye.